let's, I guess, jump right into the first order of business, which is that as of last night, the WWE has announced that WrestleMania is canceled. Well, not canceled. They'll be running it from the Performance Center, but
Right. Right. So they're just going to be doing what they've done for the past, I guess it's like 2 weeks, right? With Raw, SmackDown, NXT. It's not a really huge difference, right? Actually, is NXT also performing out of Full Sail still? I think they're going to shut that down as well, aren't they? Do you know anything about
they
this?
have to.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would assume that they are
Mm.
probably going to shut that down. So, in all likelihood, I'm guessing they're just gonna move everything to the Performance Center, and then they're just gonna record their shows there and just film everything there, and that's it.
Yeah. According to a news article 4 days ago, it seems like NXT is indeed moving out of Full Sail's arena, which makes sense because it's a university, right? So,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah, I would imagine they're probably gonna close that down.
So
But
yeah,
yeah,
what do you
madness.
think about this whole situation? Because you called this before it happened, before Raw, before SmackDown. This idea that what would wrestling be like without a crowd? And then you pulled out a classic, and you also referenced, in our private conversations, you were talking about Stone Cold, not Stone Cold, The Rock versus Mankind in the
That's
empty
right.
arena match. And my brother subsequently gave me a little extra information about that, and it was like a halftime show during the Super Bowl. And he said that they ended up
Yeah,
stealing a lot of viewers away from the Super Bowl because of that match. So it was kind of historic in a couple of ways, but also because it's like this is what our wrestling world looks like now. It's no, sorry, I keep saying Stone
so
Cold, damn it, Mankind versus The
it's
Rock.
so weird. Yeah, it's really, really weird, isn't it?
Mhm.
We're kind of living in Mankind versus The Rock in an empty arena match every day. Well, at every show. And I asked you that question in private as well. When I asked you, can you do wrestling with no crowd? And you had a really interesting response to that. You sent it to me via text, but if you could just, say what that message was, because it
Right.
was really good.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Wrestling is such a it's a performance, right? I don't want to go so far as to give it this highfalutin term. It's like it's art, but it is kind of it's a performance art. And because it's a performance, inherently you need to be performing in front of someone. Otherwise, it's just practice, right? And the crowd in a wrestling match is just as much a character as the wrestlers themselves. And they affect the match and the pace so much that I think that they're an integral part of wrestling, no doubt, right? But like so many things can change because of the crowd. So many great moments have been made because of the crowd. And I think in that text, that chat we had, I then went on to say something about The Rock versus Hulk Hogan and how it was booked one way, and
Absolutely.
they read the crowd and they're like, let's turn this around. He's just too over. We got to do something with this, and he's going to come out as the baby face in the end because the crowd was so hot. And when you have a hot crowd and they're excited about a match, it makes you excited about a match. They're so important. And I got to be honest, I actually haven't seen a whole lot of the empty arena wrestling in the last few weeks. I've seen like clips here and there. Um, but it must be so hard for the wrestlers because you're you're going through the motions, but like, where's your pop? Where's the energy from the people who are supposed to be watching?
That is definitely very trippy, I think. For example, last night Edge came out to the ring and he announced that he was going to wrestle Randy Orton in a last man standing match.
Mm,
And like you see him there getting fired up and like he's getting pumped up and he's cutting his promo and stuff, and then you're looking at him and you're going like, what is your motivation? Right? Like you have to probably imagine a crowd there, or you have to or like you're either that or like you're just in character thinking about Randy Orton. But
Mhm.
man, it's got to be really tricky to just cut these promos and get in the moment when you don't have any noise whatsoever. Like there's just no
Right.
crowd.
Yeah.
It's it's super
Mhm.
trippy.
I suppose this
It's
is
super trippy.
maybe this is a good indicator of who the great wrestlers are, the ones who just completely become their character. Like, if they can still cut a searing promo and be believable, and you're like, Edge really wants to kill Randy Orton. Like, I know kayfabe is supposedly dead, but every once in a while you can get sucked into it, and you'll be like, wow, this is some real stuff. This is some raw stuff, you know. No pun intended. This is some SmackDown stuff. Uh, but
Yeah, no, it's definitely yeah, it's definitely going to show us a different side of a wrestler, right? Maybe
mm,
you're right. Maybe in a weird way we're going to it's going to be kind of a litmus test. Like how
right,
good are you when there is no crowd there to cheer you on or there's no heat or there's nothing, can you still like we're going to find out how good you are at really acting
right, right.
because there's nothing there to support you whatsoever. It's so trippy. Now, that's the side of the wrestler, right?
Mm,
The of what the actual performer goes through, but also for us as the viewers, the people at home that are watching, how is this how do we digest a show like this? That's the next question.
yeah. Well, I think just off the top of my head, there's the novelty of it. If you're not a long-term wrestling fan and you can't harken back to The Rock versus Mankind, at first it's going to be kind of weird. It's going to be kind of funny. Um, but it must also be very strange watching it for the first time. Like, where's the crowd? What's going on? Something feels missing, right? Having said that, though, it does have a special quality to it, from what I understand. Like when Triple H became the guest announcer, I don't know if he's going to reprise his role from week to week now.
Yeah.
There's so much like classic stuff that he did, and he just does not give like, he doesn't care. And the
Yeah,
stuff that
definitely.
he did, it was classic. It was just hilarious. Like when he's sharpieing in Michael Cole's his white beard hairs and stuff,
Oh, it's the best.
and he
It's the
broke
best.
kayfabe
And
like
he
4 times.
dude, he just got demoted, so he's just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just wing it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You
supposedly.
know,
I mean, he's in charge of
supposedly.
NXT only, right? Which is probably good actually for him. He probably likes it.
Probably yeah, I mean that's his baby, man. I mean he
Mm,
created that machine. Like let the guy have that. I mean he's done a wonderful job there. I think that's probably what he should be focusing on and stuff.
right.
But what crazy times we're living in, what insane times. I was telling you before we even went live. I literally said this to you 5 minutes before I hit,
Uh-uh.
before we started recording, was one of the interesting things as a viewer is just the campiness of an empty arena show because
Yeah.
last night
Right.
as I
Right.
as I
Yeah.
told you, Stone Cold. I think this was the closing of the show, but Austin was closing the show, and he says like blah 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 blah. I can't remember what he said, but he said, "Give me a hell yeah." To an empty performance center, and then
Oh,
the
God.
camera the camera cuts to these empty seats, and like it stays there for like 3 seconds, and then it just cuts back to him, and he's just like, okay, and then he says, wait a minute, say it again, give me a hell yeah. And then like again, silence. But then Byron Saxton says, hell yeah, like really loudly, and then he comes into the ring, and then Austin stuns him and all that. But anyways, it's
Yeah.
just those little moments of campiness are really funny, and I guess it's maybe one of the silver line not a silver lining, but it's just kind of maybe one of the fun little takeaways of this whole quarantine wrestling thing that
Yeah.
we're doing now.
Taking it in stride, right? So, obviously, great comedic timing with the camera work there. And
Yeah.
what else are they gonna do? Triple H holding the camera, being like, "Hey, we're a little understaffed now, so I got to do a lot of different jobs," or whatever he said, right? And why not just have fun with it? After all, it is. World Wrestling Entertainment, right?